After losing everything I own to the 2019 bushfires in Australia, I've rebuilt my life and plan on travelling to every continent with my Africa twin. Join me on this adventure as I rise from the ashes of my former life.
G'day folks, welcome back. My name's Simon. If you happen to be new here, this channel's all about motorcycles, adventure, camping and touring. Of course I wasn't camping last night, was I? But I'm camping tonight because every motel in Victoria, just about, seems to be full. Because it's a long weekend and everybody seems to be going out and travelling to somewhere else. Yay! But that's alright because it's actually not forecast to be raining tonight, and it's going to be about 4 degrees, which is kind of bearable. And I actually get to test out all my quilt and my underquilt in 4 degrees in the hammock, which will actually be a really good test for it. So I'm actually just shooting back down into Maryborough because it's such a pretty little town that I wanted to show you during the daytime, like when there's plenty of light to see some of these beautiful buildings. So I thought I'd do that before I leave. I mean, just over here's that Coles shopping centre that I was at yesterday with the chimney sticking up through the middle of the building. So anyway, yeah, so this little town's got some beautiful buildings in it, and I just thought it would be a shame to not have a quick look at them. I mean, it's a very pretty little place, to be honest. The main street's a little bit tight, but I mean, not every gold rush town had a giant wide main street, so you know. I love this building here on the right. It's the Bull and Mouth Hotel from 1904. Morning, Constable. And of course, TwatNav's going crazy because I'm completely ignoring it. Oh, look at the little hot rod here. Wow. That's cool. Bangkok Thai restaurant. Oh, I should have gone there last night. Wonder if they would have boat noodles there. I doubt it. I remember in Bangkok actually going and having boat noodles, and the kitchen was set up to look like it was in a boat, and they were really, really nice. So anyway, we'll turn around and go back down the main drag here. So maybe I'll fuel up at the Shell. Sorry?
Did you check the air conditioners good?
Yes, yeah, it's all good. Cheers, mate. Take it easy, eh? And as happens quite a lot, just fueling up the bike, and a gentleman comes up and starts chatting with me about the bike and travels, and 5-minute fueling up takes 25 minutes. It's funny though, I like it. I've put the route into TwatNav, and I've told it to take the most adventurous route possible. And we'll see what it manages to come up with today. So, quite a few videos back, I was actually, it's the video that was actually released this week. I was actually at the New South Wales Heritage Railway Museum in Thirlmere, and I was talking about and I said I might tell you guys the story of me. So I thought, well, why not? Perfect day for it, you know. I could have a nice ride, tell you guys a story. So today's video is basically just me travelling like 164 kilometres, which isn't far at all, but today's video is mostly just about me telling you the story. So when I was younger, and we're talking like 14 or 15 years old, I was in the town of Cessnock in the Hunter Valley in New South Wales, and it is a horrible town as far as I'm concerned, or at least it was when I was a teenager, full of all sorts of problems. My father was the TAFE counsellor. Now, my father did lots of things in his life. He joined the Royal Air Force, and he served in the Malayan campaign in Malaysia. When he left the Royal Air Force, he went back to school, and he got his degree in psychology. And he ended up actually getting 2 degrees in psychology. And I think I've already mentioned on a video once before, he became the chief psychologist for the Royal Australian Air Force. And he did that for quite a number of years. But unfortunately, when my mother passed away, I was 10, and he ended up having to stop work so that he could look after me and my brother. And he stopped work for the Royal Australian Air Force, and he looked after me and my brother. When I was 11 and my brother was 16, my brother started full-time work so that I could basically keep going to school, because the single-parent pension was not a lot of money. Anyway, so my father was one of the smartest, kindest, most courageous and gentle human beings I've ever known. And you know what, like, if I can be half the man my father was, I'll be proud. And I just hope that everything I do does him justice. He sadly passed away when I was 20. But anyway, my father eventually became the TAFE counsellor in Cessnock, and he actually ended up building the TAFE counselling system for the entire Hunter Valley region for TAFE. And TAFE is the technical and further education, or vocational colleges, where they train you to be a mechanic or whatever. Anyway, so my dad, we just spent a year up in Muswellbrook building the TAFE counselling system for Muswellbrook and Singleton colleges and all that sort of thing. And so I reckon it was when I was 15, and it was probably just after I left high school. I left high school at 15 because I got bashed one day so badly that I was in fear for my life of going back to high school. And that's a whole other story that maybe I'll tell you one day if you really want to know it. Because bullying sucks, and bullies in general really don't deserve to walk around amongst us. Anywho, so my father, TAFE counsellor, he was good friends with the mayor of Cessnock. Her name was Marie Callahan, and she was a lovely lady. And my father used to get me to take messages over to her, you know, give me an envelope with a note in it for her or whatever. And I'd walk over to her office and I'd hand, you know, like I'd literally walk in and the receptionists would just look and go, "Oh, hi, Simon." And I'd just say, "Got a message from Marie?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, she's in her office, take it in." So I'd do that. And so I knew the Mayor of Cessnock pretty well. You know, I'd be in and out of Marie's office a couple of times a week, several times a week sometimes. And, you know, and all of the reception staff at the council chambers knew exactly who I was, all that sort of thing, and nobody had a drama with it. You know, that was me. I was Simon. I was the guy who'd just come in and give messages to Marie. Or I'd be walking back from being in town, and I'd call into the council chambers and see if Marie had any messages for my dad. You know, and I'd pick up messages or, you know, whatever, and take them back to my dad. So that was, you know, something that I did because it was something that filled in time, made me feel like I was doing something useful. Big mound of dirt over there. Obviously there was a gold mine near there. You know, and I could do all of these sorts of things, and it made me feel pretty good. So there I am one day, and I decided that I would call into the council chambers and I would see if Marie had any messages for my dad. So I wandered on into the council chambers, and I'm walking past receptionists, and they're like, "Oh, Simon, wait up, Marie's got someone with her." So I've just, you know, kind of like stopped in my tracks a couple of steps past. And Marie walks around the corner, and she's got this man standing with her, very well-dressed man, you know, looking very official, very, I don't know, very, looked like a proper gentleman, dressed up nicely, spoke nicely, that sort of thing. Anyway, and she's walked around the corner with this very well-dressed man, and I've just walked up and gone, "Oh, hi, Marie, just wanted to see if you had any messages for Dad." And she's like, "Oh, nothing at the moment, thank you, Simon." And I looked at this man and said, "Hello, sir, my name's Simon. You must be a friend of Marie's." And he goes, "Oh, I guess you could say that." And I said, "Well, if you're a friend of Marie's, then you must be a friend of my father's." And he just kind of looked at me. And I said, "What are you doing in town today?" And he said, "Oh, I'm going over to the Volunteer Bushfire Brigade headquarters, which was conveniently right opposite my father's office. And today it's actually, you know, just called the, I don't know, whatever they call it now. It's not the Volunteer Bushfire Brigade." So anyway, he says, "Oh, I'm going to the Volunteer Bushfire Brigade headquarters." And I said, "Oh, that's right opposite my dad's office. Can I get a lift?" And he says, "Certainly, sir. Just go and wait over there while I finish talking with Marie, and I'll be with you in a couple of minutes." So I walk over to the other side of the foyer area, and I'm standing there looking around. And by the way, like, I mean, I was 15. I had a German greatcoat that I was wearing, picked it up from a disposal store, you know, like, probably belonged to the Hitler Youth or something, but I loved this German greatcoat. It was very warm. And like, there's me standing in the reception area of the council chambers, wearing a German greatcoat, looking around, and I suddenly realise there's all these men standing in the council chambers reception area, all wearing suits. And I look outside the door, and there's 3 white cars parked at the footpath out the front, and a couple of more men standing outside wearing suits. And they may or may not have had bulges under their jackets, you know, who knows. But anyway, there's all these men standing around wearing suits, and I'm like, wow, this man must be very important. He's got all these people dressed in suits standing around waiting for him. Anyway, he finishes talking with Marie a couple of minutes later, and he comes over and he says, "Come on, son, let's give you a lift then." And I go to walk out the door of the council chambers, and I was going to hold it open for him because, you know, that's the sort of kid I am. You know, I'll hold doors open. This guy's obviously a gentleman. He's obviously important. And so that would be the nice thing to do, right? And he just says, hold up, son. And one of the people in suits comes over and he opens the door, and all the people out on the footpath look around and nod to each other, and then they nod at the gentleman that's standing beside me, and he says, "Radio, son." He says, "The middle car." And I look, and it's this big white Ford LTD, so the slightly bigger version of the Fairlane. And I walk over to it, and somebody in a suit goes and opens the door, and he says, "Jump in, son." So I jump in and climb across to the far side, and the gentleman climbs in beside me. And then all of the people in suits all climb into the cars in the front and behind us. And a couple get into the front seats of the LTD that we're in. And we make an orderly procession to travel all of a kilometre from the council chambers to the Volunteer Bushfire Brigade headquarters. I could have been at my father's office in the time it took to wait for this gentleman to stop talking with Marie. But of course, that's not the point of the way my life works, you know. So, oh, this is cool. So anyway, we make this orderly procession. We all pull out from the curb together. All three cars pull out together. And we drive down the road and we turn left and then we turn right into the Bushfire Brigade headquarters. Now, I knew everybody in the Volunteer Bushfire Brigade headquarters, and I looked at this gentleman and I said, "When do you go inside, sir? Tell Glenn to make you a cup of tea and tell him Simon said to look after you." And he just smiles and says, "Certainly, sir." And as the cars pull up, I go to reach for the door handle to get out. And this gentleman looks at me, puts his hand on my shoulder, and he says, "Not yet, son." And all the men in suits get out of the car in front and the car behind. And the car behind is now basically parked to the side of the car we're in. They all look around, they all nod at each other, and I'm looking out the windows at them and thinking, wow, this is so cool. And then somebody comes and opens the back left-hand door that this gentleman is sitting at. And he says, "Come out this side, son." And he climbs out. He gets out of the car. He looks back in the door. He says, "You can come out now, son." So I climb out of this car and I say, "Thank you very much, sir." I shake his hand. I say, "You have a lovely time, and tell Glenn Simon said hi." And I said, "That's my dad's office over there," and I pointed at my dad's office. And this gentleman smiles and says, "You have yourself a lovely day." I said, "Thank you very much, sir, you too." And I trot across the road to my father's office. And the gentleman and all the people in suits all walk inside the Volunteer Bushfire Brigade headquarters. So I go up to my father's office building, and my father always had a rule for me. If the door is open, knock. Do not push it open, but if the door is open, knock and wait for him to say, "Come in." If the door is closed, do not knock. Walk down the hall and sit in the waiting area. Because, of course, being that my father was a psychologist, he could be dealing with anybody doing anything. So that was my father's rule for me. Anyway, I get inside the building, and his door is the first door on the left after I walk in the building. And it's just slightly ajar, slightly open. So I knock. And almost immediately I get this, "Come in, Simon." And almost immediately my heart sinks. I think, am I in trouble? How does he know it's me straight away? Like, wow. And I walk in, and my father's up at the Venetian blinds, you know, the slat blinds. the horizontal slats, and he's up at the Venetian blinds, sitting in his office chair, looking out the window through a tiny little gap in the blinds. And he says, "Who was that?" So I recount to him the story that I've just told you so far. And he says, "But do you know who that man was?" And I said, "Well, Dad, he's a friend of Marie's, so you must know who he is." And he says, "I know who he is." And I said, "But is he a friend of yours as well?" He goes, "No, but I know who he is." And I'm thoroughly confused. And he says, "Look at the car you travelled in." Brings tears to my eyes to remember this story because it was so cool. So I walk up to the Venetian blinds and, being a 15-year-old kid, I just grab them and pull them down and make the biggest opening possible to look out at this car. And I said, "Yes, it's a very nice car. It's a white Ford LTD. And I think it's slightly longer than the other two." He says, "Okay, what else about it is different?" I said, "Well, it's very new. It's very nice." And he says, "What about the number plate?" And I said, "Dad, it hasn't got a number plate." I didn't notice that when I got in the car because it had a white car in front and a white car behind. And I went to the middle car, right? I said, "Dad, it hasn't got a number plate." And he says, "What has it got instead of a number plate?" And I said, "Dad, it's got a crown." And he said, "Who could travel in a car that has a crown instead of a number plate?" And I looked at my dad and I said, "Dad, the Queen could, but it wasn't the Queen." He goes, "Who else?" And I said, "Prince Charles could, but it wasn't Prince Charles." He says, "No." He said, "Who else?" I looked at my dad, and I've actually got tears streaming down my face right now, because this is probably one of the coolest conversations I ever had with my father. So I looked at my dad. Look, can you see the tears? Probably not, because the wind just blew them all over my face. I looked at my father and I said, "Dad, the only other person in Australia that could travel in a car with no number plates is the Governor-General of Australia." My dad smiled and nodded. And he said, "Yes, you just hitchhiked across Cessnock with the Governor-General of Australia." Now, it's really funny when you look at it, because I've met royalty, I've met princes, I've met governor generals, I've met prime ministers, I've met the family of presidents, and I never got into the diplomatic service. Maybe I should have. But when you look at the fact that I hitchhiked across Cessnock at 15 years old with the Governor-General of Australia, that means there is 1 degree of separation between me and Queen Elizabeth II, because guaranteed he met Queen Elizabeth II. 1 degree of separation between me and the Queen of England. Your Majesty. So, right now off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you which Governor-General it was. There's only one reason why I can't tell you, and that is because in that year, the Governor-General changed, and I can't remember if it was the outgoing Governor-General or the incoming Governor-General. And because my father is no longer with us, I couldn't ask him. And when I was 15, I didn't know the name of the Governor-General. He was the Governor-General. Why would I need to know his name? But there you go. So there, folks, is the story of me and the Governor-General of Australia, and how I hitchhiked with the Governor-General across Cessnock. I hope you enjoyed it, because for me, I've now got to pull up and find a tissue and blow my nose, because for me to tell a story like that, that is simply such a deep part of my personality, such a deep part of me and my whole ethos and the way I've done things in my life, and for me to tell you a story that brings back really good memories of my father, really touches my heart. And so yeah, look, I've been crying inside my helmet just thinking about it. Look at all that water, wow. And I really hope you've enjoyed the story. And I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn off the cameras, and I'm just going to ride along in silence for a while and think about some of these things in my life that I've done. And maybe another day I'll tell you how I drove a president's car. But until then, you've at least got a really cool story. So folks, I really hope you enjoyed it. It brought back a lot of really good memories for me to be able to tell you the story. And I hope you get something out of it. If you did, please do give me a big thumbs up. If you enjoyed the story and you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to the channel down below. You know the drill. And until next time, take care of yourselves and get out and live your own adventure.